So today, Canyon released this new bike. This is the Grizl. This is the Escape Eclipse version, and oh boy, did they really lean heavy on the bike packing features. I mean, they even have this, they're speaking my language with the little gummy bear on the seat tube here. Yeah, pretty sweet. All right, so let's just dive right into it. First and foremost, I just want to thank you all for watching this YouTube channel. It really means the world to me. And this specific bike is going to see a lot of attention in the media, a lot of reviews over the next, well, today and the next few days. And that's pretty neat. It's a pretty awesome opportunity. We all have slightly different views and angles and opinions. And well, that's the beauty of being a creator and being in the bike industry as a whole. Some of you might not love this bike, but some of you are absolutely going to love it. But, well, there's no denying the excitement it brings when it comes to bike packing value. So thank you all so much for being here. And if you like what you see in this video and all my videos, consider hitting that subscribe button. All right, so Canyon is relatively young. It was founded in 2002 in Koblenz, Germany. And well, what happened was they evolved basically from a bike parts business that was started by Roman Arnold back in the 1980s. So the company built its reputation across Europe by offering performance-based bikes through a direct-to-consumer model. And while that's certainly a point of contention, it has certainly helped keep their prices rather competitive. So after gaining success in World Tour road racing, World Cup mountain bike racing, and Ironman triathlons, they made a name for themselves, and well, eventually they launched here in the United States in August of 2017, bringing its full lineup of road, mountain, gravel, and urban bikes to riders across all 50 states. So specifically here, the Grizl was launched back in 2021, and it was their second gravel bike following the Grail, which was launched in 2018. All right, so while the Grail was Canyon's race-ready gravel bike, the Grizl was, well, their interpretation of a do anything, go anywhere, all you might ever need gravel bike. And actually, that is their language. And well, to put it simply, I'd say Canyon really built on that ethos and leaned even harder with this latest generation Grizl. All right, so before we dive into sizing, I do want to take a quick moment and let you all know that this video is supported in part by Tailfin. Tailfin designs and engineers technical bike packing equipment for almost any kind of adventure. Innovation and quality are at the heart of what makes them tick, and their constant strive to create better performing gear means that you can just focus on enjoying the ride. They offer a full range of options for hauling your gear, whether you're taking on a big race like the Tour Divide or just escaping for an overnighter. So for more on Tailfin, be sure to click the card in the top right corner here, or also follow the link in the description below. All right, so sizing. So now the new Grizl comes in two basic versions, the OG and the Grizl Escape. So the main difference between the two is that the OG gets a more traditional handlebar and a standard gravel gearing, while the Escape is set up with mullet drivetrains and this full mounty bar. Yes, full mounty, like mounting things all over the bar. Kind of a fun spin on words. Yeah. More on this bar here in a minute. So I ended up testing the CF Escape ECLIPS version, kind of a mouthful, but I will explain that naming soon. So Canyon keeps offering a wide range of sizes, 7 in total, from 2XS to 2XL. And if you haven't watched my videos before, I'm usually a medium or sometimes a large. For reference, I'm 5'9.5" or 176.5 centimeters with a 32-inch inseam and a +2 ape index. So I ended up going with the medium, even though Canyon, actually, their size chart recommended me going with a small. So the bike comes with a 404 millimeter reach, 2 millimeters longer than the previous version, and a stack just under 600 millimeters. So for reference, 385 to 405 millimeters is typical of a reach that I like for this style of bike. So I could have gone either way, but I ended up going with the medium. So I ended up actually picking this bike up from Canyon, the guys from Canyon in Boulder on a quick media day trip. And when I mentioned that, well, the bars, the levers were kind of, the hoods, I guess, were rather set up tilted downward and not level like they are now. That prompted a little bit of a discussion about Americans usually preferring a more upright fit. And we had kind of a good joke about all that. But honestly, I think it shows the difference in kind of Canyon's overall design philosophy. So that all said, this new Grizl, they actually tried to pull back on that really maybe more aggressive position with a more upright trend. So this version gained a bit of stack over the previous model, like I mentioned, now up to 596 millimeters, which is 17 millimeter increase, but that's nothing on the Kona Ouroboros, which I tested last year, coming in at 616 millimeter stack. But I will admit that I do like a lower stack than most folks, as I find it offers a better feel between the rubber and the ground. So Canyon also provides an effective stack and effective reach numbers, which I actually really like. I call them real reach. Instead of measuring to the head tube, it actually is measured to the way you actually put your hands on the bar. So obviously that varies with your bar setup, but I do wish more brands actually offered this number. It kind of gives a better sense of fit, even though it doesn't really help much for comparing brands, since most other brands, well, nobody really else lists it. Another thing worth noting here is the standover height. Both the older Grizl and this one have pretty much higher standards to maximize frame space, which is great. And this newer version has a 10 millimeter increase over the previous generation. So that all said, I still had relatively good clearance for standing over the bike. So overall, the fit worked well for me. It is maybe a little bit more upright than before, but still very much a performance oriented fit for an adventure bike. And maybe if I did go with that small, I probably would have been a little bit more upright. So just make note of the Canyon sizing. It is a little different than, say, some other bike brands out there. All right, so let's overlay the older Grizl with this updated version. So as you can see, they made some, I'd call it, pretty progressive geometry changes. So most notably here, they actually slackened the head tube angle to 71 degrees and then paired it with a 56 millimeter fork rake. So the wheel set is also now 39 millimeters longer than the previous version, with most of that added up in the front. The front center alone grew 35 millimeters, now totaling 636 millimeters. So Canyon also extended the chainstays by 5 millimeters from 435 to 440, partially to increase that tire clearance. And you'll also notice that the drive side chainstay is slightly elevated now. So Canyon is really leaning into the press fit bottom bracket, which they actually say gives them a little bit more flexibility around the bottom bracket area to squeeze out even more tire clearance. And on this bike, 54 millimeter tire clearance. And I'll be honest, I actually used to be hesitant about press fit bottom brackets, but after my experience with the Spearfish and now this bike, knowing how much kind of the technology has improved with carbon molding, I'm actually not as worried. Plus, I never dealt with any creaking on either bike so far. And if you do, well, you can always use those threaded press fit bottom brackets, which helps cut down on creaking and doesn't require those special tools for removal. So maybe that's a topic for a future video. But maybe not, I don't know. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. All right, so looking a little closer at clearance here. So Canyon stuck with the 142 rear end and 100 millimeter front end standard. And they have that claimed weight of, or claimed tire width of 54 millimeters, which is pretty conservative. They actually say that there is plenty of mud clearance here too. For reference, ISO standards require at least 4 millimeters of clearance on each side. And Canyon said that they have at least 4 millimeters, likely 4.5 or greater. So I put some of the new 52 millimeter nano tires, WTB nano tires on there, and there's still room for plenty more down there, I'd say, which is great. Another welcome update here is the fork now uses an 1.1 inch steer tube, which is a welcome change from that 1.25 inch, and it makes sense with the growing popularity of gravel suspension forks. So the Grizl Escape is now compatible with options like the new Canyon DT Swiss collab fork, which comes spec'd on some high-end Escape and OG builds, but obviously not this test bike. Finally, you get flat mount brakes, a 27.2 seat post diameter, internal headset cable routing. I knew the day would come when I'd actually finally have to test a bike with no cables up front. I mean, the industry is definitely trending that way. It certainly looks cleaner and makes packing bikes a breeze, but all I could think about was how kind of much frustration and how big of a pain it would be to service this whole setup. I haven't had to dig into that yet, so I will hold off on judging this setup any further. But yeah, I know some folks will not be thrilled about that. All right, time to take the sandals off. Socks and sandals time is over. Woo, doggy, it's hot. Big advocate of socks and sandals. All right, so where were we? Oh yeah, so let's talk about these sweet bike packing features. So first off, well, this frame comes with loads of mounts. You've got 3-pack mounts on the fork here. You've got fender mounts. You have loads of mounts within the frame, and you have 2 on the top tube here for a direct mount top tube bag, plus rear rack mounts as well. More on that soon. All right, so that all sounds pretty normal, right? A lot of bikes have these kind of bike packing features, but Canyon certainly took it a step further with the full mounty handlebar, this Fidlock attached frame bag, and the ECLIPS dynamo lighting system. So let's start with the handlebar here, because it's definitely something a little different. So the full mounty is it's a fitting name. This thing is really wild. The bar comes with an integrated stem, and I think it measures 60 millimeters in length. And the overall width is 440 millimeters, and it has a 114 millimeter drop, and the drop flares out 16 degrees. So the biggest benefit here is, well, all of the hand positions. You can crouch down, you can get super aero, you can hold the sides to kind of mix it up, or even install aero bars on the top to create yet another position. But it doesn't stop there. The bar also houses the dynamo light up front, with the wiring tucked neatly underneath a hidden panel. That panel also gives you access to mounts underneath, so that you can actually install, say, a 3-pack mount right underneath the bar, which acts basically as kind of a cradle for a dry bag. There's also an accessory bag that also fits inside the big hole here, which you can use for storage, plus it comes with a GPS mount on top. It's all a pretty cool setup, but not totally unique. I guess the kitchen sink bar launched in 2022 with some similar ideas here. So whether Canyon took inspiration from that is anyone's guess, but the full mounty does offer a bit more space in what I like to call the pineapple hole. Fits pineapple. So a lot of that space actually comes from the integrated stem, since the hole here opening basically extends outward from the steer tube itself. So it actually is a really clever use of space. Now let's talk about the dynamo setup. So the ECLIPS build is the only bike that actually comes with a fully integrated dynamo system. So ECLIPS stands for Endless Charge and Lighting Integrated Power System. So the system is made up from a Lupin Nano SL headlight with 3 brightness settings. You've got a Lupin C14 rear light built into the seat post, a Lupin Smart Core Fast Click 3,500 milliamp hour battery, Canyon Black Box battery management system, and then everything is powered by a Sun 29 dynamo hub. So this is actually a new dynamo hub that transmits power from the hub through the fork dropouts, with wires basically running up from each dropout through the fork up to the ECLIPS system. So the Sun 29 works like any other dynamo hub. Spinning the wheel generates power, but the Sun 29S also has more magnets inside and is supposed to actually generate more power with less drag, though I have no data to back that up. But Canyon does say the system charges 12% per hour at 20 kilometers an hour. Canyon also integrated this system with an app so that you can basically check the battery status, toggle on lights, and update firmware with their app. Customers will get a QR code and passkey as a sticker on their bike to access the app, which is a slick touch if you're into tech like I am. So the lights are extremely powerful, both front and rear. And there's actually a little plug, a USB-C plug at the head tube for charging the internal battery, either from the wall, or you can use that by charging devices like GPS units or phones on the fly. So this whole system is actually tucked in right here inside the frame, in frame storage, which on other Grizl builds would normally just be for tools or small items. So I've used a bunch of dynamo systems before, and Canyon really kind of did all of the dirty work here, making it look incredibly pro. It's super clean and very, very functional. Let's get into this frame bag here. So the Load frame bag is also a pretty nice addition to this bike. It's not huge, only 2.7 liters, but it basically is made to fit the frame as you see here, except for this little part in the back, which is actually just so that they don't have to make multiple different size frame bags, so this can fit a smaller frame too. So the unique thing about this half frame bag is that it uses a FIDLOCK mounting system, which is really quite neat. So there are 3 magnets mounted inside the frame that basically lock into the 3 points on the bag. So to release it, all you have to do is just tug on the little loop down here to disengage the lower FIDLOCK magnet, and then the 2 top pop out as well. It's a really massive time saver compared to, say, weaving laces or undoing Velcro or unscrewing internal bolts. So the bag itself has a daisy chain on the bottom here. It has 2 mesh side pockets, a main compartment, and a non-drive side compartment. So these are actually separated by a little mesh divider in the middle. So while they partnered with Apidura in the past, it sounds like Canyon mentioned that the new bag is 100% Canyon engineered. So I don't think that this bag was made by Apidura, but I'm not 100% sure. One thing I do appreciate is that the bag is labeled as water resistant, which is a lot more honest than most other companies who basically just slap on a waterproof or water resistant zipper and call it waterproof. It's not. My only gripe is the zipper on this bag. It could certainly be a little bit more beefy. It doesn't seem like it will last forever, but otherwise it is a very well-designed welded bag that fits the bike nicely, and it's not too wide. All right, so the bike is also compatible here with these new racks that you see, available for purchase as add-ons. So the racks are actually, they're quite nice and install seamlessly since they're actually made specifically for the Grizl here. So Canyon actually developed these racks, both the front and rear, in-house, and the rear rack is compatible with Ortlieb's Quick Rack 3.1 system using these little mounts here, and also features angled 3-pack mounts on one of the uprights here. So the rear rack mounts to the inside of the seat stay with the provided hardware, and then connects at the top of the seat stay using this kind of bridge piece. It's kind of a slick design, but there aren't traditional thread mounts near the dropout. So if you wanted to use a different rack, that might be tricky. Obviously, Canyon would prefer that you stick with their system, but I'm sure there is a workaround, or perhaps they just offer these threaded inserts for aftermarket sale. So this front rack down here is actually also pretty nice, but I do think it looks like they took a little inspiration from that Align Diamond Rack, a small German brand run by Flo from Fern Bicycles. But the Canyon version doesn't actually have adjustable struts. It simply attaches to the middle of the 3-pack mount on the fork, and then you've got one mounting point on the fork crown. You also get 3 sets of mounts on each side for bottle cages if you want to throw some water bottles or something like that. So Canyon also highlights that you can use their 3-pack cargo cage on the 3-pack mounts on the fork with the rack. So if you wanted extra cargo capacity, you can do that. So while I never rode the older Grizl, if you were to, I'd say, hop from that bike to this new version, you definitely notice a more relaxed but still inspiring ride. So I put a lot of miles on this thing over the last few weeks, and one thing is clear: it's not your typical gravel race bike. That's not to say it's slow, but if you overlay the Grizl and the Grail, well, the differences certainly jump out. And after jumping straight off the Santa Cruz Stigmata, which I was testing the new GRX system on, the contrast was actually night and day. It just goes to show that, well, not all carbon drop bar bikes, gravel bikes, have to be race oriented. And I guess I found that with the Kona Ouroboros also, yet both also still are different enough. It's kind of hard to compare those 2 bikes. So the extra length of the Grizl certainly helps take the edge off on the rough stuff, especially on ascents. But when you really kind of hammer down on the cranks, it's not quite as, I'd say, efficient as some other gravel bikes I've ridden. So the Grizl is an interesting kind of blend here. It blurs the lines between a drop bar mountain bike and a gravel bike, especially when it comes to tire clearance and, well, the overall capability. So no doubt I've been on faster gravel bikes, but I wouldn't actually count the Grizl out for, say, ultra distance riding or racing. It just is not a speedster that I kind of would have thought it would be coming from a company like Canyon. What really sets this bike apart, however, is this predictability and, well, its inspiring feel on descents and single track. Not only does it perform well on fast and rocky downhills, but it also feels grounded and really balanced while weaving through single track. I honestly had a blast with this thing on both dirt roads and trails, and it really shows off kind of what it can do. And while you throw on some beefier tires on this thing, and yeah, you've totally transformed the bike rather quickly. And when I loaded this thing up, which is easy to do thanks to all the storage and mounts, it felt even more planted. I will note that most bikes kind of do, but to be honest here, it seemed to gain a little bit more compliance and comfort with the extra weight. I'm not the heaviest guy out there, but I did find that the bike was a little bit on the stiffer side. Luckily, that stiffness didn't actually translate to, say, a harsh ride, thanks to the carbon's natural damping. Still, riding unloaded on some chunk, you might notice that. All right, so there's not much else to kind of cover with this build, but it is worth noting that Canyon went with the mullet drivetrain on the Escape builds. It all makes sense. You know, these bikes are meant to wander and go on unknown terrain, and having a wider gear range is certainly better suited for that. You also get flat mount GRX brakes and 600 series GRX levers, which are solid and feel great for long days in the saddle. And luckily, with the full mounty bar, you also have plenty of other hand positions to kind of rest your hands. The bike ships with 45 millimeter tires, but honestly, this particular build should come with 50 millimeter tires for sure. Even the Canyon team told me to swap out the 45s for something wider, and I did that right away with these 52 millimeter nano tires from WTB. They're super fast, really confidence inspiring for a mixed amount of terrain, and gives the bike so much more capability and comfort. It also comes with Canyon's S15 VCLS 2.0 CFC post, which is genuinely comfortable. There's a noticeable amount of flex, but I also felt like the flex never actually got in the way of my pedal stroke, which I appreciate. All right, so all told, the Grizl Escape ECLIPS is pretty much the bike that a lot of bike packers have kind of built themselves or had shops kind of pieced together. Except now, well, it comes in a convenient package, ready to buy and, well, shipped straight to your door. It's certainly an adventure-focused bike, loaded with all of the bells and whistles that you might need. The electronics, serious cargo storage, and of course geometry that is efficient enough for long days, weeks, or even months in the saddle. It is a unique take on an adventure-focused machine. Some folks certainly might wish for a little bit more tire clearance. Others will absolutely be content with what it offers. This bike actually reminds me a lot of the Riverside touring bike that I reviewed a few years back, at least with its kind of adventure-ready idea. But the Grizl Escape ECLIPS has a way better kind of bike packing feature set and geometry. And then there's also the value side of things here. So this bike comes in at €4,499 or 4,699 USD. So that's some incredible value, likely the best bang for your buck bike that, well, I've tested in recent memory. So Canyon obviously accomplishes this with their direct-to-consumer market, so it's not great for bike shops, but, well, that's the way Canyon does business. Sure, the racks are extra, but the ECLIPS system alone is well over 1,200 USD, so I'm really impressed at the overall price point. So one more thing here, because of the increased tariffs, Canyon is only bringing 3 select bikes to the US instead of their full lineup. So right now you get this build, you get the CF7 Escape, as well as the Grizl CF6. Let me know what you all think about Canyon's latest take on, well, this adventure-focused bikepacking bike. Let me know in the comment section below. As always, thank you all so much for watching. And if you like what you saw in this video and want to see more like it, please hit that subscribe button and notification bell. And if you want to help support this YouTube channel, everything we're doing at Bikepacking.com, you can do so by joining the Bikepacking Collective. The Collective offers a lot of awesome perks, including industry discounts, monthly giveaways, the all-new base camp, and the twice-yearly bikepacking journal. So to learn a little bit more about the Collective or just to join, you can click on the card in the top right corner or also follow the link in the description below. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, pedal further.